Man, look, I need y'all to lean in close for this one. You want to talk about a hustle? You want to talk about the ultimate game being played right under your nose? If y'all don't know who the SPLC is, that's an acronym for the Southern Poverty Law Center. They've spent decades acting like the high priests of social justice, the watchdogs of morality. But I have this 14-page federal indictment hammer right here, and what the DOJ just dropped on them is gonna make your head spin. The kicker? The mainstream media is not gonna spew any of this garbage to you. They won't touch it. Why? Because this indictment proves the SPLC is just a fake and fraudulent extension of the Democrat Party's fear machine. They aren't fighting hate, they're middleman it. I'm not gonna be long, but I am gonna be thorough because we are going page by page through every single receipt. You need to stay until the very end because once we get to the money laundering counts and the federal forfeiture, you're gonna see exactly how this game is rigged against you. Let's go straight to page 1 and read this introduction for what it really is, because this is the part that's gonna set the stage, and I'm here at Political Detox to guide you through this purple rain. Let's get into the meat of this. The grand jury charges. The Southern Poverty Law Center's stated mission included dismantling white supremacy and confronting hate across the country. However, unbeknownst to the donors, some of their donated money was being used to fund the leaders and organizers of racist groups, including the Ku Klux Klan, the Aryan Nation, and the National Alliance. The SPLC paid informants, field sources, engaged in the active promotion of racist groups at the same time that the SPLC was denouncing the same groups on their website. The SPLC also had a field source who was a member of the online leadership chat group that planned the 2017 Unite the Right event in Charlottesville. That field source made racist postings under the supervision of the SPLC and helped coordinate transportation to the event for several attendees. In order to covertly pay its field sources, the SPLC opened bank accounts connected to a series of fictitious entities. The covert nature of the accounts allowed the SPLC to disguise the true nature, source, ownership, and control of the fraudulently obtained donated money the SPLC paid the field sources. In order to keep the scheme going, the SPLC made a series of false statements related to the operation of the accounts. Now y'all see that? Did y'all hear that? Unbeknownst to the donors. That's street talk for they lied to your face while they reached for your wallet. You thought you were fighting the Klan, but your $20 donation was actually paying their light bill. It gets worse. They weren't just watching these groups, they were promoting them. They were literally pouring gasoline on the fire just so they could turn around and sell you the water. They were even acting as the travel agents for the Charlottesville rally. This is how the Democrat Party keeps you scared and keeps you voting. They need the chaos. This indictment shows they're opening bank accounts for these fake and fraudulent entities just to hide the cash. This is the blueprint for the whole machine. Now, let's follow that dirty money to page 3. Here we are on page 3. Watch this. Let's see how they define this shadow network. 8. Starting in the 1980s, the SPLC began operating a covert network of informants who were either associated with violent extremist groups such as the Ku Klux Klan or who had infiltrated violent extremist groups at the SPLC's direction. These informants were referred to by some individuals within the SPLC as the field sources, or the Fs. 9. Between at least 2014 and 2023, the SPLC paid their Fs in a clandestine manner. Doing so hid the fact that while the SPLC received donation money under the auspices that the funds would be used to dismantle violent extremist groups, this donation money was instead being used in part by the SPLC to pay leaders and others within these same violent extremist groups. That money was then used for the benefit of the individuals as well as the violent extremist groups. 10. Between 2014 and 2023, the SPLC secretly funneled more than $3 million in SPLC funds to Fs who were associated with various violent extremist groups. $3 million. Now, look at this. While you're out here trying to keep your head above water and pay for groceries, they're secretly funneling millions to the villains. It's a protection racket disguised as a charity. They need the hate to exist, or the checks from the Democrat Party elite stop coming in. If there's no fire, they don't get to play hero. Now, let's get to the part that's really gonna blow your mind. Let's go to page 4. Now we're at page 4. I need you to hear how they set this stage from the jump. A. F-37 was a member of the online leadership chat group that planned the 2017 Unite the Right event in Charlottesville, Virginia, and attended the event at the direction of the SPLC. F-37 made racist postings under the supervision of the SPLC and helped coordinate transportation to the event for several attendees. Between 2015 and 2023, the SPLC secretly paid F-37 more than $270,000. B. F9 was affiliated with the national Nazi organization, the National Alliance, and served as an F for the SPLC for more than 20 years. F9's activities included fundraising for the National Alliance. Between 2014 and 2023, the SPLC secretly paid F9 more than $1 million. $1 million payday for a Nazi. Now, watch this. Your justice money paid for a neo-Nazi's lifestyle for an entire decade. While another friend of the establishment is on TV crying about threats to democracy, their favorite watchdog is cutting 7-figure checks to the leaders of the hate groups. It's like finding out the fire department is paying the arsonist a salary to keep the city on fire so they can keep their budget. This is the Democrat Party playbook. Create the villain so you can play the hero. It gets deeper on page 5. Page 5 shows you the scale of the hustle. D. F-27 was reported as an officer in the National Socialist Movement and Aryan Nations affiliated Sadistic Souls Motorcycle Club. Between 2014 and 2020, the SPLC secretly paid F-27 more than $300,000. E. F-42 was the former chairman of the National Alliance. The SPLC website contained an extremist file webpage about F-42 from which the SPLC solicited donations. Between 2016 and 2023, the SPLC secretly paid F-42 more than $140,000. This overlapped the time period in which F-42 was featured on the SPLC's extremist file webpage. Y'all see that? They put the man on their most wanted list to scare you into donating while they're secretly his biggest donor. It's a movie and you're the one paying for the production. They are literally the bank for the extremists they claim to hate. Let's go to page 6. Look at paragraph 13. This is how the hustle actually works. 13. To secretly funnel donated money to the Fs, individuals at the SPLC, including a person who would become the Chief Financial Officer, Employee 1, and a person who would become the Director of the Intelligence Project, Employee 2, among others, opened a series of bank accounts at Bank 1 and Bank 2 in the name of various fictitious entities. Now look at the names of these fake and fraudulent entities. In paragraph 14, A. Center Investigative Agency, CIA, Fox Photography, Northwest Technologies, Northwest Tech, Tech Writers Group, Tech Writers, and Rare Books Warehouse, Rare Books. Leadership, the bosses were the architects. They actually call one the CIA. The arrogance is unbelievable. They use these fake and fraudulent shell companies to wash your money and hand it to extremists on prepaid cards. This is how the left keeps the division going. It's a multi-million-dollar industry. Now, check page 7. Page 7 is the legal way of saying they lied. 18. The objective of the scheme and artifice was to obtain money via donations through materially false representations and omissions about what the donated funds would be used for. 19. To carry out this scheme and artifice, the SPLC explicitly sought donations under the auspices that the donor money would be used to help dismantle violent extremist groups. In the SPLC solicitations for donations as outlined herein, donors were not told that some of the donated funds would be used by the SPLC to pay high-level leaders of violent extremist groups and others within these same violent extremist groups. They told you it was for justice. It was actually for the hustle. Let's look at the actual transactions on page 8. Page 8 shows they were still doing this as of last year. Look at count 1, 4/25/2023, a wire transaction in the amount of approximately $4,750 to a First Citizens Bank account controlled by F9. They didn't stop until the feds stepped in. They thought they were untouchable because they have the protection of the Democrat Party machine. Now let's go to page 9.
Page 9 shows they were lying to the banks too. 26. The purpose of opening these bank accounts for the fictitious entities was to be able to conduct financial transactions that made it appear as if the Fs were receiving money from the fictitious entities rather than receiving donated funds from the SPLC. 27. In the process of opening these bank accounts for the fictitious entities, individuals at the SPLC submitted documents to Bank 1 through New Signers Bank. These documents contain false and misleading information regarding the ownership and control of the fictitious entities for which the bank accounts were opened. When you're lying to the banks and the donors, you're just a criminal organization with a better PR team. Now, watch this on page 10. On page 10, they get caught. The CEO and the board chair had to admit in writing, "Please let this correspondence serve as confirmation that the accounts listed below were open for the benefit of Southern Poverty Law Center, Inc. operations and operated under the center's authority." They signed their names to the hustle. They knew exactly where that money was going. There's no escaping this. Let's go to page 11. Now, page 11 is the legal hammer. 34. It was the objective of this conspiracy to conduct financial transactions designed to conceal the true nature, source, ownership, and control of fraudulently obtained donated money the SPLC paid to Fs. Money laundering, fraud, conspiracy. This isn't a mistake, it's a business model. Now look at page 12. Page 12 shows the handoff. 38. The funds deposited in the Rare Books account at Bank 2 were then loaded onto pay cards issued to the Fs who were supposedly employees of the fictitious entity Rare Books. They were handing out prepaid cards to extremists like it was a company bonus program. It's a total betrayal of every person who ever trusted them. Now, let's see the consequences on page 13. Now, page 13 is where the feds start taking the house back. B. Upon conviction, the defendant, Southern Poverty Law Center, Inc., shall forfeit to the United States any property, real or personal, which represents or is traceable to the gross receipts obtained directly or indirectly from the offenses. They're coming for the Poverty Palace and everything inside it. The party is over. Finally, let's look at the signature on page 14. Finally, page 14, a true bill, signed by the foreperson and the acting United States Attorney. This 14-page indictment roadmap proves the watchdogs were just the ones pouring gasoline on the fire the whole time. Look, if this breakdown doesn't have your blood boiling, I don't know what will. Are we really gonna keep letting these fake and fraudulent institutions play us for fools while they get rich off our outrage? Give the video a thumbs up if you want the truth, and subscribe to keep the receipts in your feed. My question for you today is, now that you've seen all 14 pages of this indictment, can you ever trust a non-profit again? Drop your thoughts below. I'll see you on the next one.